Good evening. I'd like to call to order the June 10th, 2020 regular school committee meeting at 6:02 p.m. June 10th school committee meeting will be televised and recorded with a meeting location in the virtual world. Due to the recent open meeting law policy set forth by the governor during the current state of emergency, the meeting will be held as a virtual meeting. To participate, you can call in at 978-771-0819, or you could view through live television channels, Comcast Channel 22 and/or Verizon Channel 34, or at the Tewksbury YouTube TV page. As a preliminary matter, my name is Keith Sullivan. I'm the chairman of the Tewksbury School Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present, can hear me, and consent to be recorded tonight. Members, when I call your name, please respond on the affirmative. Mr. Scott Wilson?
I can.
Thank you. Mr. John Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Jamie Cutlass?
Aye.
And unfortunately, Mrs. Demos had a prior professional conflict and a commitment, so she couldn't make it, but she is fully committed to our community and our kids, and she's recording this and has informed me she will be watching it as soon as she's done her other commitment. So, staff, I'm going to please ask that you do the same and respond on the affirmative, and please give consent to be recorded this evening. Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Mrs. Regan?
Aye.
Mr. Libby?
Aye.
And Administrative Assistant, Mrs. Gail Johnson.
Aye.
Thank you. I'd also ask the same from our anticipated guests. Union Representative, Ms. Julie Taggett. I'm not sure if the retirees are present, but Anna Gaudette.
Mike, gone.
Katie McLeod.
Yeah, gone.
Katie McLeod.
No, Katie wasn't going to make it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Joe Frank. All right, I'm going to move on to our principal.
Patty Martell, I believe, is present.
Okay, Ms. Patty Martell. He's on mute.
She's on mute. I think we. Okay, we got it.
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Okay, principals and administrators, and I apologize because I can't see everyone. Ms. Kristen Vogel. Mr. John Ware.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Judy McGinnis. Ms. Terry Garish.
Aye.
Ms. Karen Cronin.
Aye.
Mr. Jay Harding.
Aye.
Ms. Felicia. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I know you was Mrs. Whetstone. I'm sorry.
Come on, give it a try.
All right. Sananovich. Jananovich. Okay, my apologies. Congratulations, by the way. Mrs. Alex Bosworth. You're welcome. Mr. Randy Long.
He was having some technical difficulties.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bill Hart.
Bill's good.
Okay, Mr. Sean O'Leary. Ms. Eileen Eisborn.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Rick Pelletier.
Aye.
Ms. Lynn Noyes.
Okay.
Mr. Ron Druin.
Aye.
Mr. Karen Baker O'Brien.
Aye.
And Mr. Jason Stamp.
don't believe Jason's on the call.
Okay. Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to have all you guys here and celebrating our retirees and our former principal that's moving on. So thank you very much. Good evening. This open meeting of the Tewksbury School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment, as was previously noted, and to participate, you can call in at 978-771-0819. For this meeting, the Tewksbury Public Schools is convening by WebEx as posted on the town's website, which identifies how the public may join, view live through televised cable channels Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 34, or at YouTube, www.youtube.com/TewksburyTV. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and aired live, and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that people may be able to see you, and do take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available by request. Please email Gail Johnson at gjohnson@tewksbury.k12.ma.us for a copy of the agenda packet. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Please allow me to refresh our ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And if anyone has a comment or question, can be submitted in the chat window and will be recognized by myself. When appropriate, you will be unmuted and asked to speak. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in dialogue with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items during citizen forum, I will ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify their name and address. They will then be afforded 3 minutes to comment on any current or previous agenda item. All right. With that said, I would like to turn the floor over to Superintendent Malone for our recognition this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of our bittersweet nights of the year every year where we honor our retirees. This year, we're honoring 11 individuals who will be moving on from Tewksbury Public Schools after significant years of service and significant high benefits to all of our students in town, and we're very proud of their work. We'll be going through a couple of them individually, but I think I first want to start, since several of these members are part of the Tewksbury Teachers Association, hand it over to Ms. Julie Taggart on behalf of the Teachers Association.
Hi, Mr. Malone.
Hello, Julie.
Thank you, everybody. You know, my name is Julie Taggart. I'm the Vice President. Full of incredible educators. They dedicate an entire career to doing what they love and working with children. And the Tewksbury Teachers Association is proud and grateful for the many years of service that our 5 retirees this year have provided to the students of Tewksbury. So to Katie McLeod, Pat Martell, Cheryl Picaro, Joe Frank, and Pat Gail, enjoy your retirement. You have all earned it. And thank you for all the years you've given to Tewksbury students. Have a wonderful retirement.
Great job. Thanks, Julie. Appreciate that very much. Thanks for the TTA, and certainly the honoring has just begun. There's a few of the individuals on the list that were not able to be here tonight and send their regrets. First of all, Patty Muse, purchasing coordinator for over 25 years of service here at central office and the business office. Mr. Dave Libby's here, representing and supporting her. But Patty is a mainstay in the district. She's always there when you come to central office. She works with many of our principals on purchasing, and she's got significant institutional knowledge, and we appreciate her work and congratulate her on moving on to retirement. Robin Adams, manager for food nutrition services for 17 years at the Wynn Middle School. Thanks to Robin for all her service. Always moving. It's hard to find Robin at any given time because she's always moving. We appreciate her work and her significant success. And on behalf of Deb Mugford, thank you very much, Robin. Roberta Waltrip, Food Nutrition Services, 18 years of service from the Heathbrook Elementary School. Redstone, I'm going with the old easy one. Here representing certainly our Heathbrook staff. But thank you to Roberta, always a smiling face, always willing to work with students, and just a joy to be around. Nancy, it's your name.
Did I just get disconnected?
No, you didn't. Just trying to see if that feedback goes. Nancy, to name. Administrative assistant, 21 years of service, special education. Student services. Jason, are we getting feedback?
We are, Chris. Can we just have everyone mute their microphones? Joseph, I think it might be coming from your computer. Just want to make sure your speakers are down a little bit. Okay.
So it's Joe Frank pulling a prank on the superintendent on his last day. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So I think he's coming in twice, Chris. I think he's dialing.
Joe, you're logged in twice.
All right, what I'm going to do is just mute the phone call portion. Let's see if that's any better. Joe, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, I think your speakers are probably a little.
Should we close this one here?
Okay. Looks like Joe is muted on both.
So I think we're going to need him to disconnect from the phone. Okay, looks like he left. So let's see if we can get him back in.
All right. And of course, Joe is a technology teacher. Jason, do you want me to move ahead?
Yeah, you can go forward, Chris, and we'll just bring him in as he comes back.
Okay, great. And once again, Nancy Turname, administrative assistant, 21 years of service here at central office. Rick Pelletier is here representing her. Nancy is, again, another mainstay here at central office. We appreciate all her hard work, her smiling face, and her contributions. Sandra Ryan, building custodian, 26 years of service at the Dewing Elementary School. Principal Garish and Assistant Principal Bosworth are here tonight to honor her. Any of our custodians working in some of the aged buildings do yeoman. We appreciate all the work they've done, and certainly Sandy has a well-deserved retirement coming her way. Patricia Gail, kindergarten classroom aide, 16 years of service, Heathbrook Elementary School. Again, Ms. Judanovich is here representing the Heathbrook, and appreciate all of Pat Gale's work. Certainly her work with the students, our aides are the unsung heroes of the district, and we appreciate all her work. We did have a couple individuals that were not able to make it that emailed in. Kathy McLeod sent her regrets and said, I would like to thank the administration, my colleagues, students, and their families for allowing me the privilege of working with them. Tewksbury is my home, and my time teaching here has meant so much to me. The little ones who entered my classroom each and every year challenged me, taught me, and made my heart happy. I will carry the friendships, the families, and the memories with me forever. Thank you. Once again, that's from Kathy McLeod, grade 2 teacher from the Dewing School, 20 years of service. And again, both Principal Garish and Assistant Principal Bosworth are here to represent her. Also, we heard from Cheryl Picaro, case manager, 26 years of service, John Ryan Elementary School. And Ms. Picaro said, Dear School Committee, I appreciate your kind intentions to acknowledge my 26 years of service in Tewksbury Public Schools as an early childhood facilitator, system-wide chairperson, and case manager. While I am unable to attend the virtual meeting on June 10th, please know that my tenure in Tewksbury Public Schools has been rewarding, and I will leave with many memories. Thank you for recognizing and appreciating my years of service in Tewksbury. Actually, thank you, Cheryl, for all your work. And we do have a couple of individuals who are available to join us tonight, and we're very happy that they're here. I know Anna Gaudette had intended to arrive. I don't know if Anna's on the call. Sounds like Anna was not able to get on the call, but after 19 years of service at the Dewing Elementary School in food service nutrition, we'll miss Anna. We'll miss her interaction with all the students every day. And again, Ms. Garish and Ms. Bosworth are here to represent her. And finally, we have two outstanding retirees here in our presence this evening. First, Patty Martell, who is joining us here this evening. She's a DLC grade 2, K2 teacher, 20 years of service in the district, currently at the Dewing Elementary School. Patty's just one of those people, when you walk in the building, it's great to see her, and it's fun to watch her work with students. And we're so appreciative of her work. She's going to be missed. Ms. Garish, I'm not sure if you wanted to add a couple words to that.
I think that one of the things that I love about Mrs. Martell is that she truly embodies the belief that every child can succeed. Every time I go into her classroom, no matter what the challenge a child is going through for the day, she finds a way to work with the child, with the staff, with her colleagues, and with the parents to make sure that that child can do the very best that he or she can. And there's nothing better, no better way to honor a teacher than to say, her children have done well.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Garish. Patty, congratulations. I don't know if there's any words you wanted to say or contribute.
No, I want to thank you all. Katie McLeod said it perfectly. I've had a job I've loved for 20 years, and I appreciate all administration in the town of Tewksbury has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty, and congratulations. And finally, we have Mr. Joseph Frank, a technology education teacher, 21 years of service from the Wynn Middle School. And I'll tell my story about Joe Frank. My story about Joe Frank is how I got to kind of know some of the schools is I would go to morning drop-off every day. And at the Wynn, it's very windy, very cold. And this gentleman would come out and talk to me all the time, and he was happy. And he was happy to be outside at drop-off duty and happy to interact with the kids and happy to talk to a new superintendent who didn't know anybody. And I made it a point to kind of get back to the Wynn constantly to do both arrival and departure duty just to see Joe Frank and see his happy face. So with that, I'm Mr. Ware. I'm not sure if there's a couple things you might want to add to that. Mr. Ware, you're muted.
Thank you. Big congratulations to Joe. And it's funny that you started with that because I was going to start with outside of the classroom, Joe in his pickup and drop off duty there every day, as you said, greeting the kids, big smile on his face, all kinds of weather. And again, outside the classroom and things like charity basketball games, giving it his all to make it a great and fun experience for our kids. And then in the classroom, starting the year with simple machines, moving kids all the way through rocket projects and CO2 cars and building house models. Those projects became a staple of the Wynn Middle School 8th grade experience. And Joe really brought that in all his years. He established a great tradition for all our kids and that we truly missed. Congratulations, Joe, and enjoy your retirement.
Great job, Joe. And I don't know how they're going to keep up with you in retirement because the amount of times at Wynn you were moving on to referee a field hockey game or do other things like that. But Joe, do you have a few words you'd like to say?
I'd like to thank everyone that supported me throughout my career. It's been fantastic because no one ever works alone, and one is never happier when they are helping others. And that's what I strive to do. So thank you to everyone very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your years of service. Before Patty, you and Joe go, I just wanted to turn it back over to the chairman for a quick note and just back to the school committee before we finish off with the retirees.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. I just wanted to add on behalf of my colleagues, obviously, while there's a tremendous amount of years of service here, and we certainly are only one blip in your radar during your career, but I mean this wholeheartedly. When we have the retirees in, it certainly is. It's a nice moment for us, and I'm a little sad, honestly, that we have to do it remotely, but in the same regard, I'm very appreciative because you guys have had such a positive influence, and I think Joe said it best, helping others, we send our kids away, and sometimes parents forget the positive influence that teachers and administrators and cafeteria workers and secretary and the impact that they can have on those young lives. So thank you for being part of this. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your service and all that you've done to make Tewksbury a better community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, retirees. Thank you for your years of service. Thanking for you for both being our ambassadors to students. You're a great example of who we are and what we all want to be. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could beg your indulgence for a moment, we had another recognition that wasn't on the agenda, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although we don't have a retiree, we do have a member of our team that's moving on. And tonight is our opportunity to say thank you and goodbye to Ms. Kristen Vogel. Kristen's a great team player, a great administrator, started here at Tewksbury Memorial High School in 2014, has been a mainstay in the district. Not quiet about her opinion, which is great. And she will be moving on to Linfield Public Schools as superintendent. So probably more than any of you, I will be seeing her more after this than some of you, and I will pass on your regards. But Kristen is just someone really we kind of gravitate to. for leadership. She's navigated some significant challenges at Tewksbury Memorial High School and done it with grace and done it with honesty. And she's a great team member of all the individuals that you see here as part of this meeting today. And we really appreciate her efforts. And I think I'd like Ms. Regan maybe to offer a couple thoughts and then turn it over to members of the DLT if they'd like to add something. Ms. Regan? You're muted, Ms. Regan. I've always wanted to say that, but you're muted. Ms. Regan.
You can't do that in real life, can you? Kristen, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been. 6 years ago, I can't believe it's been 6 years. I mean, everything I think of since the opening of the high school, I think of you, and I think of the day that we met, our passion for baking cookies, even for serious meetings, and all of the just heartfelt changes and heartfelt goals you had for our students in Tewksbury is so appreciated, and for our staff and for us. So thank you for being such a great member of our team, helping us grow. We've had challenging conversations all the way through, and that's something I've truly appreciated. So I wish you and Linfield well in your next endeavor.
I don't know if there are any other members of the DLT that wanted to offer any words.
I'll go.
All right, Ronnie.
I'm forever grateful to her. She took a chance on me. She's a great leader. She's been a great mentor for me. She's a good friend. I can't say enough good things about her. I will miss her a ton.
Thanks, Ronnie. Great job.
I'm gonna echo that, Ronnie. Thank you. I feel the exact same way. I consider myself very fortunate to have had 3 years working with her. She's one of the best professionals I've had the opportunity to work with in my almost 20 years in education. So thank you for that, Kristen.
Eileen, I know you're on the call. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yep, I'm here. I'm in the car, which is why I have no video. But anyways, I'm not driving at the moment. Kristen, thank you so much for all that you've done for me and for the high school over the past 6 years. It's been a pleasure working with you. And I know that Linfield is really lucky to get you. So thank you.
Terry, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure to work with Kristen in 2 districts now, and really appreciate your vision for success and your ability to collaborate and learn the knowledge that you bring to the table. But the fact that you're always looking for a way to help children succeed. The children and your students and are truly at the center of everything that you do. You've led a team at the high school in a way that allows so many people to shine and develop. You mentor and develop people's growth and help develop new leaders, which to me is the sign of an incredibly strong leader, because you're bringing that out in others. And I am so confident that the people of Linfield are going to be so glad that you're going to be with them, because then it's just the natural next step for you.
And Kristen, I want to thank you. I had the blessing of working under you directly for 5 years. Your insightfulness, your support, your leadership is truly a gift to Tewksbury. And I know you're going to take that to Linfield, and your shoes will be big to fill in Tewksbury. And I just want to thank you for everything.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Unless anyone has any last comments.
I was just going to say, Kristen, thank you, being the newbie in the district, so to speak. Your leadership, your ability to always put the vision of children first is remarkable, and I look up to that. I admire that, and I just want to thank you for being there, and I wish you the best of luck in Linfield. They're very lucky to get you.
Felicia, did you want to?
I do. Kristen, I came into the district and listening to you the whole time that here. and this year, laughter, it highlighted every ad the past couple of years. The best of luck.
John Ware?
Thank you, Kristen. I've learned so much from observing your leadership style over the years and for your support when we're working out different things. You know, I know you're going to do great in Linfield. I just want to wish you the best. Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, Kristen, I've always valued your opinion on decisions we have to make sometimes in the central office that have impacts on the schools. And my mentors had always told me the bottom line when you're making a financial decision, is it good for kids or bad for kids? And you were always on that same page and had a good perspective on what was good for kids and helped us make those decisions that would best benefit students from a financial perspective. So appreciated your input always, because you had a great perspective on that type of thing. And best of luck.
Judy?
So to my like-minded peer, I will miss your smile, your humor, and your outfits, but I've discovered that virtually, you'll never really leave. I will find you. I'm really, really wishing you the best of everything, Kristen. You get it.
I don't know if there was anyone else.
If I can, one quick second. Kristen, I've been able to work with you on a few different levels through DLT. You're a tremendous as my son entered preschool, high school last year. Your leadership skills really allowed him and his peers to just have a wonderful year despite all of the challenges. So I appreciate all that you have done on both aspects.
Great. Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, I believe the committee has a proclamation.
Yes, I'd like to yield the floor to Mr. Jamie Cutlass, please.
Oh, there it is. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. To Mrs. Kristen Vogel, a resolution of recognition. Whereas the Tewksbury Public School community and the members of the Tewksbury School Committee would like to pay tribute to a special employee, Principal Kristen Vogel. And whereas Kristen Vogel has served as principal of Tewksbury Memorial High School since July 1st, 2014, and will leave the Tewksbury Public Schools for the position of Superintendent of the Linfield Public Schools on July 1st, 2020. And whereas Mrs. Vogel was committed to high expectations for students academically, socially, and civically, and adheres to the core values of RISE. And whereas Mrs. Vogel served as MVC president and a member of the MIAA Golf Committee, she is a leader and team player, and she will always be remembered for her positive and energetic personality and infectious laugh. Mrs. Vogel will be missed by students, staff, colleagues, the community, and the many friends she has made in Tewksbury. And whereas Mrs. Vogel has brought great pride, recognition, enthusiasm, and honor to herself, to her family, to Tewksbury Memorial High School, and to the town of Tewksbury, now therefore be it resolved that the Tewksbury School Committee applauds, honors, and recognizes the significant impact of Kristen Vogel, principal of the Tewksbury Memorial High School, in our community. And thank you very much, and good luck in Linfield.
Thank you, Mr. Cutlass. I'd like to call on Mr. Wilson if he has anything he would like to add or say to Mrs. Vogel.
I do. I was lucky enough to have two boys go through high school with Mrs. Vogel. I had an opportunity to talk to her at good times and bad, to have her give me counsel and just some great conversations. She was always someone that I enjoyed seeing and having a conversation with, or catching up with at all the different school events. I don't know how she was at so many places, but Kristen, you are someone who truly had an impact on these children's lives. They will remember you, and I just can't wait to see the great things that you go do in Linfield. So best of luck to you and your family, and we'll be keeping tabs on you and how you're doing.
Thank you, Scott. Mr. Stadman, would you care to add anything, sir?
Yeah, it's definitely for myself and for the Steadman family here. Jack, he's disappointed to lose you as a principal going into his junior year. But as all of your colleagues and your staff has said, you're a great asset here, and you'll be a great asset in Linfield. So we're sorry to see you go, but it's a great professional move, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Stadman. And I would just like to follow up with my thanks as well, Mrs. Vogel. I haven't seen you in the classroom. I haven't had kids. I did have a wonderful opportunity to spend 3 days with you. And it really shows how much you care for those kids. So certainly that, along with your strong leadership, is obviously what propelled you to be a superintendent, which is awesome for you personally. I'm very happy for you as someone that always, like myself, I think, and others that want to better themselves and reach out and go further and help more people. And that is tremendously awesome. Unfortunately, we're going to have a little void here, but we just, on behalf of the committee, I can't thank you enough for all that you've done for the students that have come through for the 6 years. And I think we actually had to go out and get a former superintendent to fill your shoes. So they were big shoes. So continued success along in your journey. And remember, you'll always have a home and a special part here in Tewksbury. Thank you.
Ms. Vogel, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say.
I just want to thank you all. I'm kind of mad at you. You all made me cry. So don't worry, I'll get you all. I know where to find you. It really has been a wonderful 6 years. I didn't realize how hard this would actually be, but it is. My staff, my team at the high school, and all of you will always have a special place in my heart, always. And I know I know where to find you all, and you know how to find me. So, I will always be thinking of you, and I have learned, just as I've learned so much from all of you, and I will take a little piece of all of you with me to be, I hope, the best superintendent I can be. So thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. I also, before I go, I want to make sure that I recognize my administrative assistant, Anne-Marie McCormick. She will be leaving Tewksbury after 19 years as the high school principal. She will be becoming the executive secretary to the new superintendent in Linfield. So I feel very blessed that this opportunity came about for Anne-Marie. It literally was just one of those circumstantial things that happened with a retirement in Linfield, and it's really something that Anne-Marie has been wanting to do. She is exceptional at what she does, and I'm sad that the high school is losing her, but I'm very happy for me that she will be by my side in Linfield. So thank you again for everything. So appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, DLT, for being here. We really appreciate it. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Superintendent Malone. We have no student representative report, no further presentations. Courtney, we're moving on to Citizens Forum. Is there anyone on the line that wishes to call in and speak about anything on the agenda this evening?
Sorry about the delay. There's no one.
Okay. We'll probably run through things for a few minutes and I'll check back at least one more time before we go. But if you do have someone and you want to throw it, I assume you have access to this chat box.
Yep, I do.
Okay. If you want to, if someone calls in and you want to just do that, we'll find the appropriate time at that time. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. In the absence of Mrs. Demos, I think Mr. Wilson was going to step up and present the approval of the minutes and the submission of bills.
Yes, first time doing this, so hopefully I get it right, Keith. So for approval of minutes, I would like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 19th, 2020, from our virtual special meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the May 19th, 2020 virtual special meeting. The thing is, you know, requires a roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a 4-0 vote. Thank you.
I would also like to make a motion on approving the minutes from May 20th, 2020, which was our virtual regular school committee meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the May 20th, 2020 virtual meeting minutes. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. It's a 4-0 vote. Thank you.
And the last item that I have is submission and payment of the bill. So I move the school department payroll for the period ending May 28th, 2020 to be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,305,310.32.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the payroll pay period ended May 28th, 2020 in the amount of $1,305,310.32. How do you vote, Mr. Wilson? Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a 4-0 vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Great job. And I'd like to now turn it over to Superintendent Malone for his and the staff report. I think you're on mute, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick note on back to the retirees. A quick thank you to both you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Cutlass for making a special event for the retirees who usually come into the meetings and receive their retirement gifts. And both you and Mr. Cutlass delivered those to their homes. So thank you very much for that. I think that was special for our retirees. Along those lines, congratulations to the Tewksbury Memorial High School class of 2020. Certainly an unusual year for all of our students, a very unusual year for our graduates. But thank you to them for all the hard work they've done. Thank you to them for their great job during both the drive-through graduation and the virtual graduation. Great work by the high school staff and administration to make that happen. But again, this is the time of year where our graduates should be honored and celebrated, and certainly we want to recognize that. Also want to recognize certainly a lot that all of us are certainly dealing with, both in education and in the world. Certainly we have some strong concerns about what's happening around the country, and concerns around racism and how we can best approach those issues. I think one of the biggest elements that's difficult for us in education right now is our inability to have regular face-to-face contact with students and give them the opportunity both to voice their concerns, talk about the issues, look at our educational opportunities to support them, use our support services to assist them. It's very difficult for us in education. Certainly, this is a challenging time. We will keep working on it. We will keep looking at our current resources, continue to develop them, keep looking at our current personnel and interventions, expand what they can do and provide, continue to try to communicate to students and families, even though we're in a remote environment, and try to provide them the supports they need. But we are very hopeful that we can get back in direct contact with our students as soon as possible so we can do what we feel we do well, which is help them, support them, and educate them through some of these very difficult times. So we will continue to work in that vein, but this is certainly a challenging time for all. On an additional note, we are awaiting specific guidance and directives from the state on what schools will look like in the fall. Currently, we're being told that the commissioner could be sending out information as early as next week in regards to what we can expect schools will look like in the fall. The commissioner has talked about many scenarios, most of which surround 3 different possibilities. One possibility would be returning to school somewhat as normal. A second possibility would be a continuation of remote learning for all students. And a third possibility may be a hybrid model, which may have students spending some time in school and some time in remote learning. We're uncertain what those final decisions are. We continue to plan. We continue to look at resources, and we continue to try to work with the state to try to help make those determinations. We, at this point, like many parents, many students, we have a lot more questions than we do have answers. But we will continue to work on that. We hope to have further and more direct information from the state, as I said, as early as next week. We did receive some initial guidance from special education about the possibility of doing some direct service contact with students as early as this summer. However, many of those details have not been provided, and many of the questions have not been answered to make that a possibility. We're motivated, certainly, to support our students in any way we can, as long as it's in a safe environment, but we will continue to move forward and look at how we can plan, what type of materials we'll need to support our students when they return, whether that is part of a smaller section of students who may participate in some type of summer programming to all of our students returning in the fall. This is going to require a complex approach, some forethought, and for the administrative team, this probably takes up 90% of our time thinking about what are the options, how we can adapt, and how we can respond and to gain information regarding this. Also, we've been working with AlphaBest, our summer camp and before and after school programming provider. They also are looking at the guidelines, practices, and procedures that they would need to implement if we were going to attempt to open up some type of summer camp opportunity for students and before and after school care for students when we return in the fall. They've been very actively involved in that, but they're also facing some of the same challenges that we are, but we'll continue to work with them. We know that childcare is certainly a huge issue for all our families in town, and it's a piece that we are certainly pursuing vigorously and working closely with AlphaBest. But as of today, they're in somewhat of the same situation as we have more questions than answers at the moment, but we hope to see progression in that and to get more directives coming from the state that allow us to make the best decisions possible for students. Along those lines, the administrative staff and secretarial staff, both at the center school and in our school buildings, are back in at work on site full time. The center school staff are working closely. Thank you to Mr. Libby, who worked on some protocols and procedures to have us safely operate in a work environment. And the secretaries and the principals are working with families who may need items or support, even though we're still in a remote phase, but that we're here to help families the best we can, even though we don't have in-person instruction. The past 2 weeks ago, we opened up our schools for staff to come in and pick up their belongings and collect some materials for teaching that they needed, and certainly get their classrooms in the best position possible to be clean over the summer. And in addition to that, thank you to our Tewksbury staff who worked diligently to collect student belongings in all the classrooms and to bag those items and to mark those items. And for the past 2 weeks, we've had families come to the K4 schools and the Ryan and soon the Wynn, so that students and parents could pick up their belongings so they can retrieve them and bring them to their house. So thank you again to the staff who worked diligently on that. Just a couple of other quick reminders. News from the Doing School the 21st Century grant, which we started last year, is going to be offering some remote parent Zoom workshops provided by Ms. Kerry Stack, who's a popular professional development provider with parents and staff members in the district. That'll be taking place 3 Wednesdays in a row from 7 to 8 p.m. on June 3rd, June 10th, and June 17th. We'll be putting out that information so parents can connect with that. And again, we're trying to do our best to support parents and students remotely. And through the 21st Century Grant, we were able to connect with that and provide that for parents. And I had mentioned last week on short notice, a big thank you to Mr. Rich Iandoli, a parent in Tewksbury, for his donation of 2,000 masks that will come in handy. Certainly, we have been purchasing protective gear that we believe we have been told to anticipate to be required to have for staff and students, hand sanitizer, disposable means, all kinds of elements that we've been working diligently to research how we can obtain and how we can ensure that we assemble the materials we'll need that for when students return to school, we'll have them in a safe environment. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to Ms. Regan for her report.
All right, just hold on 1 second, Mr. Malone. Just want to make sure no one has any questions with your report or comments. I'll start with Mr. Cutlass.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Wilson?
I am all set. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Mr. Steadman?
No comments as of now, as look forward to the further developments with the opening. It's especially, we know how COVID's changing, our lives and especially the school lives, from day to day. So look forward to the next time we're meeting, and as always, the, changing in the world of the school. So.
Thank you, Mr. Steadman. And I don't have any questions or concerns, Mr. Malone. Thank you. Turn the floor over to Ms. Brenda Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The first of my update is our Art Now first ever virtual art show. Parents and students can find that virtual art show on our district website. It is live. I think that's an oxymoron, right, for a virtual art show, but it is live, up and running. Approximately 420 entries to our virtual art show were given to the art teachers. I mean, really a showing of amazing creativity and talent from multiple medias of art by both students and staff. So bravo to all of our students that contributed, to all of our budding artists. But I would be remiss if I did not thank you, our art teachers who put this together. You know, they know that art can really be a powerful tool in helping to heal when times are tough. So I'd really like you to indulge me, and I'd like to read their names. Ms. Nicole LaPierre, Ms. Jennifer Arnold, Mr. David Moffett, Ms. Ashley Sullivan, Mr. Eric Donaldson, Ms. Melissa Lane, Ms. Krista Kasiba, and Jen Barbady. Thank you very much for their efforts towards this very successful first ever virtual art show. On the topic of art, last Friday, the Wynn Drama Group performed their first ever virtual drama performance. The title of the play is Happy Birthday, Heather Higby, I'm Planning Your Doom. This showing aired for 2 days and then was submitted to the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild Virtual Festival. These free performances are about works of art, 21 minutes or greater, and they really showcase the great work of our drama group at the Wynn. So congratulations to all of our Wynn actors and stage crew, and thank you to Mr. DePrima for giving this opportunity to our students at the Wynn. Also, one of my updates pertains to the Wynn. Tomorrow night, June 11th at 7 p.m., the John Wynn Middle School will host a virtual academic recognition night for students who will be receiving awards in the areas of academics, individual department awards, or attendance awards. Parents can watch that ceremony on our live local channel, Comcast Channel 22, Verizon Channel 34, and it will stream on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Congratulations to these Wynn students winning awards tomorrow night. Remote learning is in its last full week. If you can believe it, we've had 10 official remote learning weeks and 3 enrichment weeks as we transitioned to remote learning. This has been a huge lift. So I would just like to thank the school committee for your support as we did this. Certainly our administrative district leadership team and all of our teachers who really put in the hard work to produce such a body of work. It's really been an amazing wild ride with everybody, but I think we all feel very proud of ourselves and certainly proud of our families and students moreover, because really the partnering with our families to continue learning for our students has been just the most important piece in this remote learning. Families should know the remote learning website will stay up all through the summer. We'll continue to update with free links and resources with engaging activities that will continue to help students with their learning. And then finally, Q4 report cards, special ed progress reports for the individual remote learning plans, and final grades will be posted and published to students' Aspen portals by the end of school day on Monday, June 15th. We will send out the instructions for parents and students to access those reports by the end of this week, and again on Monday through the school newsletters and through the district newsletter. That concludes my report.
Great. Thanks, Mrs. Regan. And I'll just go along to my colleagues to make sure they don't have any questions. I'll start with Mr. Cutlass.
Oh, no, I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Regan.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
I have nothing. Thank you, Brenda.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Steadman?
No questions. I did watch the play. It was a fun little play actually. Watching everyone go virtual. It was quite interesting watching it on YouTube. And the virtual art show was definitely interesting as well. So hopefully next year we'll get more live action instead of these virtual things. But hey, it's keeping everyone entertained and the kids busy. So good stuff.
I would just like to dovetail that with a special thank you to Mr. DePrima. I've got a lot of wonderful positive comments about how he went above and beyond to make that happen, and really make that a nice thing. So kudos, for a job well done. So at this time, we'd like to turn it over to Mr. Libby for anything he may have additionally.
Yes, good evening. I just wanted to bring a little attention to an item that's in the consent agenda tonight. We had a quite last minute offer to the town through Mr. Montori from one of our residents, Mr. Mike Sacconi, of the company that he represented is Dargunian Farms in Andover. And he offered on Monday a donation of some hanging plants to the town. The town manager offered it to the town departments. We thought it might be a nice enhancement to the graduation that was happening on Tuesday, but weren't sure if we could pull that all together in such short notice. And Mr. Sacconi was unbelievably cooperative and accommodating in getting those plants to the high school before 10 o'clock for the virtual graduation ceremony. Over 250 plants he dropped off at that time, then came back later in the week with another 200. So it was just a great gesture on his part to donate those to us and really enhance the whole experience for the kiddos at the virtual drive-through graduation. So I just wanted to make sure that was acknowledged in our meeting tonight. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Libby. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do any one of my colleagues have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding tonight's consent agenda?
Keith,
Seeing
I
none?
did.
Okay,
I
sorry.
did have sorry about this, Scott. I did have I guess it would be a question, a comment, and maybe a concern all in one. There was I didn't know that this was going to be in the packet. So when I saw it in the packet, I just had some questions, and I apologize that I didn't have an opportunity to really dive deep into this prior to the meeting. So I was hopeful that it wouldn't cause any great issues if the 2021-22 Appendix B athletes coaches list was tabled until our next meeting.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for discussion. Mr. Wilson, is there?
I'll second it if you need a second for discussion.
I have a motion and a second to have discussion regarding the Appendix B positions. All those in favor, it's a roll call vote. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Okay, we'd like to open up discussion, and I guess we'll start with you, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I had some questions about some of the coaches. I had reached out to Mr. Druin maybe in early April, but we with the pandemic and everything that was going on, it was we haven't had an opportunity to reconnect. So I would like to reconnect. We had a discussion about the I guess I'll call it the end of year review process for each coach and how that goes and what that process looks like. And I just had a few questions. So before we went ahead and approved that long, extensive list, I just wanted to have an opportunity to either follow back up with Mr. Druin, or I'll set up some time to sit down with Chris, Superintendent Malone, I should have said, and just ask some questions.
Fair enough. We go to Mr. Cutlass.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman. That's fine with me.
Mr. Stadman?
I'm fine with that. No questions.
Okay. I would just like to ask Superintendent Malone, is this time sensitive?
It's a little bit function of the teacher's contract on top of some other pieces, but I'm sure we could get a meeting together with Mr. Druin, myself, Mr. Wilson, anyone else who would want to be part of it. I think we could get that going as early next week.
Okay. But I mean, as far as us tabling this to the next meeting, it seems like I'm not.
Is that July?
That would be the July meeting, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So are you making that in the form of a motion? I guess what's the pleasure of the board then, I'll say.
I'll make that in the form of a motion that we table the Appendix B athletics and take a vote on it at our July meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to table the Appendix B athletic positions till the July meeting. Having a motion and a second. How do you vote, Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Stadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a 4-0 vote. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I'll ask Mr. Cutlass, do you have any other comments or concerns regarding tonight's consent agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Stadman?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments or concerns with the consent agenda, what is the pleasure of the board at this time?
Make a motion to accept tonight's consent agenda with the exception of Appendix B.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept tonight's consent agenda with the exception of the Appendix B athletics. How do you vote, Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Stadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. 4-0 vote. Thank you very much. Moving along to committee reports, I yield the floor to Mr. Cutlass for the elementary school building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, everything's going along fine. The architects completed their design. All the contractor construction documents are done. Permits are in place, and considerably, the contractor has started to mobilize on site. You can see the fence around the site, and they're starting to do the site work right now. The demolition first, additional site work, and then construction. So everything's going pretty good there right now, and we're going to meet tomorrow, and that's it, I think, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Cutlass. No Tewksbury Education Foundation report this evening. The CPAC regular scheduled CPAC meeting, I think, was a week or two ago, which they had a new board voted in. We have been working together. We actually met this morning regarding the latest guidelines that Superintendent Malone talked about a little bit in his report with regards to if we're going to actually be able to get some kids in for summer services or remote learning and how that works. So, we're certainly appreciative to their efforts. We're meeting, we were meeting every week till a month or so ago, and we're meeting every other week. So we certainly value their input. It's valuable information, obviously, to hear from, what's going on as an end user, where someone might not always want to go directly to myself or the school district. They certainly can go and go through the CPAC, and so that's good. The Wellness Advisory Committee, Mr. Stadman.
No activity, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And while I got you there on the floor, I'd like to ask for you to the policy changes and adoption are next on the docket.
Sure, Chair. This being the third reading, we're voting to approve tonight, rescind, revise, or adopt on IHA, Basic Instructional Program. I assume we're going to read each and do a roll call vote, or how do we? I think you're on mute, sorry.
I'm sorry. I think we can do them all, and then if there's an issue, we can one out.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. IHA, Basic Instructional Program. IHBG-E, Homeschooling. JLA, Student Insurance Program. JLD, Guidance Program. JP, Student Gifts and Solicitations. JB, Equal Educational Opportunities. JBB, Educational Equity. JF8BD, Homeless Students, Enrollment Rights and Services. JFABE, Educational Opportunities for Military Children. JFABF, Education Opportunities for Children in Foster Care. And this would be the third reading. The vote would be to approve the policies to rescind, revise, and/or adopt.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Steadman. Prior to doing that, I'll just check in, and we'll start with Mr. Wilson. Did you have any issues with any of the following policies that you've been reviewing for the last month?
I do not.
Great. And Ms. Same, do you have any?
No, Mr. Chairman, fine.
Okay. And I do not as well, so what is the pleasure of the board at this time?
I would make a motion that we approve policies, rescind, revise, and/or adopt all of the policies that were read during my lengthy reading of said policies, IHA. Way through.
And I would second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to policy changes, proposals, and adoptions as read by Mr. Steadman. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a 4-0 vote. Thank you, Mr. Steadman. We'd now like to go to old business. It looks like we have an MCAS update, so I'm probably guessing that's going to Ms. Regan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for correcting the typo we have on the agenda. I appreciate that. Well, I believe this is the final MCAS update I have for you for this school year. Well, pending any other changes, but this update pertains to competency determination requirements for the classes of 2021 through 2023. So our next 3 years of seniors. I'm just going to summarize the big changes. So under the change, the competency determination for the science, technology, and engineering MCAS will be awarded upon demonstration that the student earned credit for a course in the relevant STE subject matter. For Tewksbury, that would be biology, the biology course for our freshman students. The process and timeline will be announced at a later date. The students in the classes of 2021 through 23 will still be able to qualify for the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship and the Stanley Z. Koplik Certificate of Mastery. Students in next year's freshman class, so students in 8th grade, will, in fact, it's planned that they will take the STE MCAS test in 2021. I want to make note that this decision only affects the current freshman class and through for that STE test. Members of the class of 2022, so this year's sophomores, will take the 10th grade English MCAS in their junior year. We will continue to provide you with more information as we receive it, and certainly our plan as this additional MCAS test will need to be scheduled at our high school. Any questions on that before I move on?
Mr. Wilson, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Mr. Cutlass?
No, all set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Stadman. Thank you, Mrs. Reed. I don't have any questions as well.
Thank you. Well, I guess, I think the next item is not mine. My apologies.
No worries. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Dave Libby.
You're muted, Dave.
Happens to everybody, huh? So when I was reviewing the minutes to the May meeting, it came to my attention that the roll call vote that was taken on the budget reflected an amount that was on the budget, but it wasn't the total budget. So we thought it would be a proper procedurally to correct that with a new vote by the school committee on the total figure, which included the exempt principal and interest that was left off the vote that was taken in May. So the vote taken in May was 61,187,066. The amount that has been approved with the finance committee, the town manager, will be appearing on the town warrant at town meeting, and is approved there as part of the overall town budget, should be 68,672,023. So it's more of a procedural correction that we needed to make, that we were hoping the committee would take on this evening.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, absolutely.
Just to be clear, there have been no changes to the budget whatsoever. The budget amounts and budget documents are exactly as you have seen the past several meetings. The issue was identifying the not correct budget number from the budget. Nothing's changed in the budget. It's simply the error was voting on the wrong number. And we researched and looked at previous budget votes to ensure the line item location of where the school committee has voted in the past that matched with the line item that goes forward to the town and for town meeting. And we wanted to make sure that all coincided. But the budget numbers have not changed in any way whatsoever. It was simply a clerical mistake of pulling the wrong number off the sheet. The correct number was on the sheet as well. The number that didn't reflect the full budget going forward to the town was not the one that was read off the sheet.
Thank you, Mr. Malone, for clarifying. Mr. Cutlass, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion though, if you'd like.
Sure.
I'll make a two-part motion, a motion to rescind our vote of May 20th, 2020, approving the budget of $61,187,066. And then the second part to approve a 2020-2021 school year budget of $68,672,023.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions and I will second that motion.
Okay. I just want to check in with Mr. Stadman. Do you have any questions before we vote, Mr. Stadman?
No questions.
Great, thank you very much. So I have a motion and a second to rescind the erroneous $61,187,066.
Actually, hold on one second. So just for housekeeping, with my original nay vote, if I vote nay, I'm voting to not rescind the original. I can vote nay anyways, but if I vote nay against this anyways, I'm voting nay to rescind the other one. It's just going to be with the original motion on the floor. I'm voting to to nay on the original one. So I'm voting, I don't know exactly which way I'm voting, but that's okay.
Why don't we do this? Mr. Cutlass, would you care to rescind your motion and break it up, and then we can vote on the original rescind
That's be
61?
a pain in the ass, sorry.
That's okay.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to rescind our vote of May 20th, 2020 and on the budget for 61,187,066.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to rescind the May 2020 budget as was previously voted on. All those in favor, Mr. Wilson? Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well.
So I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the 2020-2021 school budget in the amount of $68,672,023.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the school budget in the amount of $68,672,023. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Nay.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. That's a 3-1 vote, and the motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Cutlass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would just like to add to Mr. Libby, thank you. Obviously, I think we talk about this all the time. Often we make a mistake, and I think it's how we deal with those mistakes. And I'm glad that you found that, and we were able to correct that tonight, so we have the proper information going forward to town meeting. So thank you for that. And I'd now like to turn it over to Mr. Malone for the revised school calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be handing that further over to Ms. Regan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, if you remember at our last meeting, we illustrated the results of 2 surveys, one survey for our staff, one survey for our parents, where there was a majority agreement to try to get our kiddos back earlier in the school year. As a result, and you've already voted on that, the first day of school was moved to Monday, August 31st for all students. Now, following the Commonwealth of Massachusetts regulations on setting a school calendar, which the minimum days we need to set are 185 days, which include our 5 snow days, that needed to adjust our last day of school and some other dates within the calendar. So you can see from the calendar that's provided with you, we've adjusted the last day of school for students, the 185th school day, as June 23rd. Also following the Commonwealth of Massachusetts regulations on setting the last day for our seniors, which is that we may not set it any more than 12 days before the 185th day. We have now set our 2021 graduation date for Friday, June 11th. Additionally, within the calendar, you can see that we have scheduled in our workshop days and all of our full PD days. So this change in calendar does require a roll call vote.
Great. Thanks, Mrs. Regan. With Mr. Steadman, do you have any questions regarding the school calendar as proposed or presented to us this evening?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Cutlass?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 school calendar as presented by Mrs. Regan.
And I'll second that.
I got a motion and a second to approve the school calendar as presented to us this evening. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. It's a 4-0 vote. The motion carries. We have a new school calendar. Thank you, Mrs. Regan.
You're welcome.
And on to our next order of business, the registration periods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, we tabled this register period chart from the last meeting because we needed to finalize the calendar. So what you have in front of you is the 2020, 2021 register periods for our 4 quarters of the school year. I don't believe this requires a roll call vote, but we certainly do, would love your endorsement of the register periods for the school year 2021.
Sure, I'd like to make sure no one has any questions for us. Mr. Wilson, do you have any questions regarding the registration period?
I do not.
Mr. Cutlass?
No.
Mr. Steadman?
None, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no questions, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion that we endorse the 2020, 2021 register periods presented by Assistant Superintendent Regan this evening.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the registration periods as presented this evening. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. And that brings us to the superintendent's evaluations. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. All right. To Chris Malone from the Tewksbury School Committee Chair, Keith Sullivan, dated this June 10th, 2020. The summary evaluation report for the superintendent is the responsibility of the chairman of the Tewksbury School Committee. The annual evaluation uses a format that was previously agreed upon by the superintendent and the Tewksbury School Committee. The superintendent has been evaluated using the model superintendent rubrics. The performance areas under the evaluation include instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. The school committee members have evaluated you on 20 different indicators within the 4 standards. The indicators range from unsatisfactory to exemplary. I am pleased to report that your overall evaluation is one of proficiency. You have met and in some cases exceeded the school committee's expectations. Each of my colleagues will have the opportunity to comment if they wish on their individual evaluation after the summation is presented. This evaluation will provide you the opportunity to look back at your accomplishments and look forward as you prioritize our district goals for the future. Mr. Malone continues to exhibit strong leadership by setting high standards and expectations for both students and staff. He works well with his district leadership team and has initiated professional learning communities as was negotiated with the Tewksbury Teachers Association. Overall, his leadership is focused on improving achievement and outcomes for all our learners. In the area of management and operations, Mr. Malone has evaluated in the proficiency/exemplary range. Mr. Malone has been fully vested in the elementary school building project. He continues that important work as we get ready to start the construction phase. He is equally focused on being fiscally responsible as we fund and look at the new future. His leadership during this pandemic created what we believe was a comforting sense of satisfaction for not only teachers and staff, but for students and families as well. In the areas of family and community engagement, prior to the pandemic, Mr. Malone was visible attending many various events, PAC meetings, and especially available during elementary school building meetings. Since the pandemic, Mr. Malone continues to make himself available, albeit through other means, via telephone, email, Zoom, and Google Meets. Mr. Malone always gets back to people within the community. In particular, Mr. Malone has made it a priority to meet almost weekly with the CPAC so the district can work collaboratively for the students who were receiving special services and who now, as we go to remote learning, as we go to remote learning, need to find a way to service those students. In the area of professional culture, Mr. Malone continues to promote a professional culture that supports the needs of students with appropriate resources for teachers, administration, as well as other staff. As we continue 21st century learning, we can't stress enough the importance of raising academic achievement and outcomes for all our learners. In summary, we find Superintendent Malone approachable, professional, and consistent in his dealings with the school committee, school staff, students, and community members. We also recognize and appreciate his sincere commitment to the district as well, and his consistent work towards improving academic achievement and outcome for all our students. We look forward to seeing how we can support you as we continue to navigate this pandemic while you work collaboratively with all stakeholders towards a reopening in the fall that will provide a safe and productive environment for all our learners and all our staff. Thank you for all that you do for us and the Tewksbury Public School System. And I would like to now turn it over to my colleagues if they have anything to add. I'm going to start with Mr. Cutlass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you said it very well. I agree with everything you said. I think that Mr. Malone does a fantastic job, and I think we're very fortunate as a district to have him as our superintendent. I think he's been outstanding, and I'm glad he's here, and I'm glad he's going to be here for the next few years. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Malone.
Thank you, Mr. Cutlass.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cutlass. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I'll echo what Jamie said. Keith, I thought you laid it out well. Thank you for, gathering our thoughts and putting it all into one concise document. Mr. Malone, it's been a short time that we've had to work together, but I've appreciated your thoughtfulness on the issues, the direct manner in which you have the conversations, and I feel like our school system is in a great place with you at the head. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for all that you continue to do. And I wish you the best of luck in the next coming months, because I know that we have our hands full with everything that's happening. But you're the right guy to get us where we need to go. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Steadman?
I'll echo Mr. Cutlass and Mr. Wilson's sentiments. I know that the next coming months are going to be difficult for you and your staff, with all the guidance, if you will, coming down the pike with the safety of our kids. But again, with the short tenure we've had together, I know that you're clear, concise. You put things out there, and as Chair has said, you make time for everybody, and you're always there to, you're always there for people. So you're working it, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Steadman.
Thank you, Mr. Steadman. And I'd just like to add on a personal note. I'd like to personally thank you, Sue. You always seem to be one step ahead. And I like to think I'm a guy that likes to do that myself. And I didn't want it really to be focused on this COVID and take away from the really positive work that you and your staff are doing there to help improve achievement and outcomes for all our learners. But I wanted to point out for, the community who doesn't get to see that work and work with you every day, you've been mindful from the outset of what construction is going to look like and getting that project done and getting it done on time and on budget. And, now with COVID, I know the conversation that you and I had about COVID, we were already, worried about, hey, how do we keep kids safe just with construction? And now I know that you're already prepared not only for construction, but construction and COVID. So people don't get to see that, and I just, stuff like that to me is very important, that, we really have a superintendent that's proactive, that's, thinking about issues prior to. Another example is just being really fiscal, sound. Obviously, none of us know what it's going to look like, but I think we're all reasonably intelligent to think that at some point, previous revenues that we've had may not be there. So didn't need to be part of the, certainly the evaluation. You do a wonderful job, but I know, we're already having those discussions and we're always mindful of that. So I just wanted everyone in the community to be aware of that stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the committee. It was very nice things that you've said, and certainly I feel it's a true reflection of the other team members in this meeting, Ms. Regan, Mr. Libby, all of the district leadership team that was on this meeting earlier. It really is a reflection on all of them, and I appreciate your support, appreciate your feedback, and I'm looking forward to continue working together.
Great, thank you very much. And before we go to new business, I'm just going to check in with Courtney. Courtney, is there anyone that has called in?
Let me go check that for you. 1 second.
Okay, sure. Mrs. Regan, are you doing the Spanish textbook?
All right. Thank you for holding. We got no callers.
Okay, thank you for the update. I'd like to turn it back over to Mrs. Regan for the TMHS TMHS Spanish textbooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the first item in new business is my recommendation to the school committee to support the purchase of the update of the online textbook access for the school year 2021 for Hace Se Dice by McGraw-Hill. It's in the amount of $6,142.50. The funding source is from our textbook capital outlay fund already in our budget for this year. This is a 1-year only update. A piloting process did not technically need to be done for this update to a current text. What we have currently is not adequate. Next year, our foreign language department will choose to do a more thorough pilot to improve our foreign language program at the high school. So this does require a roll call vote.
Any questions, Mr. Cutler?
No, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Mrs. Regan's selection of the new Spanish book by McGraw-Hill.
Okay, I have a motion.
$142.50.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions, and I will second that motion.
Great. I have a motion and a second to approve the new Spanish online access in the amount of $6,142.50. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote? Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutler?
Aye.
Yeah, votes aye as well. 4-0 vote. Motion carries. And on to our summer reading program, please.
I'm going to just summarize the different grade bands summer reading program for any parents that may be watching. Clearly, every year we stress that reading is the most important and rewarding activity that directly correlates with students' academic success. So from kindergarten through grade 4 summer reading program, there's a number of pages attached, but I'd like to just let parents know there's suggested reading titles, there's recommended questions for parents to ask while their child is reading or after the child is read, or if a parent is actually reading to the child, which is important at the early childhood levels. We know that if those questions are asked, it really builds on the oral fluency and reading comprehension. So you can see that all of the necessary documents and suggestions are included. I would like to make note that the Tewksbury Public Library is also hosting a virtual summer reading program. The Tewksbury Public Library has been wonderful partners with the Tewksbury Public Schools. And once again, they're making our suggested titles for all of our grade levels available to students as well as other high interest children's reading books. So we thank the Tewksbury Public Library for their help. If we move on to the Ryan summer reading, grades 5 and 6, you can see that things change a little bit. We're asking students to read at least 20 minutes daily. We require students to read a minimum of 3 books. One book should be fiction and the other 2 should be one nonfiction. The third book is of student choice. There's a reading log as well as the activities that students are supposed to fulfill that again align to their reading standards at their appropriate grade level. So there's a fiction book report or story mapping and a nonfiction story mapping, and then a movie poster activity that needs to be done as well. If we look at the Wynn summer reading program, teachers expect that each student read a minimum of 1 book over the summer. There's a linked assignment related to middle school ELA standards. The assignment is due on Tuesday, September 8th. And the assignment that needs to be completed will be used as a tool when students return back to school or however we return back to school, and it will count towards their first term ELA grade. Parents should know the Wynn has provided online access and some of these suggested titles that are free to students. And again, the Tewksbury Public Library has this reading list to make these titles available as well. When we go to the high school summer reading program, you can see that the real goal here, because high school students least likely engage in some of these activities, and we're always trying to find ways to engage them. The major goal here is that they read a book they like. That's really important. It's appropriate for their grade level or age level, and that they enjoy it. And there's even a sentence that if you don't like the book you chose, dump it, pick another book that you like. There isn't a required assignment. You can see that assignment there, and this assignment will be turned in once they have their first English class, and it'll serve as the basis for a writing assignment in class, a discussion and a writing assignment that will count towards their grade. There's a special note here, and this question always comes up. What if my child's in an AP course? Do they need to do summer reading? And the answer is both yes and no. If it is the AP English course for seniors, then yes, the student has to do both the AP reading because it is an English course and there are required readings for that, and the summer reading. If it's any other AP course, that book can serve as the student's summer reading book if the student chooses. They are certainly welcome to choose another book that they like. The summer reading program has been posted to the district website. Parents are encouraged to contact either their building principal or myself if they have any questions or concerns or additional ways in which we can support their child to read.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Reagan.
Okay.
Are you looking for a vote or?
I don't think we need that for the summer reading program. Sometimes we take a vote on it. It is not necessary though.
Okay. And that takes us to the Student Opportunity Act.
Yes, I'll try to be succinct on this, but it is new. This will require a vote of the committee, so I do want to be as comprehensive as possible for anybody watching. As you may remember, a couple of months back, we talked about these additional Chapter 70 funds known as the Student Opportunity Act, or the SOA. So what you have in front of us is the Tewksbury Public Schools draft SOA plan, and it's in draft form until you, pending your approval. So the commitment of the SOA funds is to focus on student subgroups and achievement of our students. You can see that we're focusing on students with disabilities, low income and economically disadvantaged students, high need students, including our ELS students, our English learners, and then all of our students. So we have some work to do. The data shows that we have some work to close those achievement gaps in order to meet the criterion reference target percentage of 75% or above. So we realize that going from good to great for all students is equally important, and that requires some training and targeting some strategies for our teachers. Our tiered focus monitoring Office of Language Acquisition Feedback also advised that we needed to improve and strengthen the consistency of our translation practices district-wide for our EL families. If you turn the page, you can see that the evidence-based program, at least program 1 to close gaps, is what DESE defines as supporting our educators to implement high-quality aligned curriculum. And I added on for all learners. So you know that within the last 2 years, really, we have focused and committed our work to strengthening our teacher collaboration and communication around student achievement, our 3 big rocks, right? We intend to use the SOA funds to really deepen and continue that work, which was the suggestion or guidance by DESE Commissioner Jeff Riley, not to reinvent the wheel, but really do better at what we intend, our intended goals. So we've picked topic areas for that first program, and you can see, I'll just say collective efficacy. We know that collective teacher efficacy is the #1 influence related to student achievement. Coaching our high impact teacher teams. These are our teacher PLC facilitators, and high impact teams build their collective expertise in the practices that matter most for student achievement. Our understanding by design, or UBD curriculum mapping, it's at the foundation. I apologize, it looks like there's a typo in there. You know, well aligned, vertically aligned program and curriculum mapping is really the foundation of all of our instruction. And then finally, embedded in that curriculum mapping should be social emotional learning for all students. We teach students, right, not widgets, so we need to think about their social emotional needs as we create instructional curriculum maps. Our total SOA funds, or our increase, if you will, in our Chapter 70 funding was $100,920. So you can see for Program 1, for those 4 topic areas, we have spent $87,000 of our SOA funds. If you turn the page, we have to commit to how we will show that those funds were well spent. And we have 3 custom metrics we will use with the consultants and the programs and the completion of our UBD curriculum mapping district-wide. If we look at Program 2, again, it supports educators to implement high-quality aligned curriculum. And this directly relates to needing an application and a tool for consistent translation through all of our modes, whether it's Aspen, whether it's district communication, all through our modes. And we need a tool that's easy for teachers to use. So we're looking at a couple of them, and you can see we've dedicated $13,920 to ELA language translation tools. That takes us to our total amount, $100,920. We will use 2 custom district metrics. Most of all, we want DESE to put their blessing on the tool we're using, and then obviously improved communication for our L families. The SOA requires us to engage families in their knowledge of what we're doing. And you can see that we will engage our PACs, our school councils, and our All Families to Open Houses and other communications. And then we needed to engage stakeholders in determining how we'd spend the money. And you can see that we did engage multiple stakeholder groups to give us some feedback on the programs we're running and where we can continue to deepen that work. And then finally, in our SOA draft plan, it requires a vote of the committee, and it also requires how we plan on gaining your support. So you can see that I jotted that you've already approved and put your blessing on our district-wide goals, and this money is to strengthen them.
Great, thanks, Mrs. Regan. Mr. Cutlass, any questions?
No, all set, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Steadman, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Wilson, any questions?
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
This does require a roll call vote, I think, per statute.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. What is the pleasure of the board this time?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the Student Opportunity Act as laid out by Assistant Superintendent Regan.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Student Opportunity Act as presented here tonight by Mrs. Regan. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
Mr. Cutlass?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. The SOA is approved. Thank you, Mrs. Regan. And finally, last order of new business this evening is the FY21 Valley Collaborative Board Member appointment. I guess I'll take this one as we are afforded the opportunity every year to have someone go over and represent us over there at Valley Collaborative, where some of our out-of-district students go. The Superintendent Malone has been good enough to do that as long as I've been here. So, barring any questions, I think it only seems poignant to let him continue on with that work. So, Mr. Cutlass, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Steadman?
Nope. I wish him the best of luck.
Great. Mr. Wilson?
None either.
Okay, and what is the pleasure of the board at this time?
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Malone to the representative to the Valley Collaborative.
I'll second that motion.
Great. I have a motion and a second to approve Superintendent Malone to be our representative at Valley Collaborative. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman, how do you vote?
Aye.
How do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Malone, for your continued service in that capacity.
Thank you.
Okay, I would now like to move on to school committee matters of interest, and we're going to start with Mr. Cutlass.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Mr. Steadman?
I'm all set.
Mr. Wilson?
You know, I just going to quickly say that I thought the graduation last week was tremendous. To the administration, the PACs, the parents, everyone involved. I thought Tewksbury did a great job showing the students that we care about them, that they're valued, that we wanted to appreciate them on their big day. And I think we hit it out of the park. I thought it was a tremendous showing, and I've heard from a lot of parents who were really appreciative of the efforts that were taken. So thank you to the team here. Thank you to those that aren't here, and just I think it was a wonderful week. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and a wonderful segue. I would like to personally thank Friend Lumber Company, who stepped up and donated all of the lumber for the stage. I'd also like to thank the anonymous volunteers who wish to remain anonymous that donated their time and put that stage together. And a huge thank you to Tewksbury resident and all-around great guy, owner of MDR Construction and owner of Dargonian Farms, Mike Ciccone, for certainly his donation of all those wonderful flowers and plants. You know, it was really nice to see. The guy couldn't have been more happy, you know, to help us out. Really, the guy that gets it in the community. And, you know, we can't say enough to people like Mike Ciccone. So thank you very much. And my final thought tonight is for all of our teachers and our staff, as we genuflect here with the retirees. It offers us a moment to also take pause and realize how many special teachers and aides. I think we've all got so many fantastic phone calls, emails, compliments about teacher after teacher going above and beyond during remote learning, during enrichment. We really have, you know, wonderful staff members here. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of those, and to the teachers that did show up to graduation. Obviously, it was, I think all of us would have liked to be able to have the students all around with each other. When that couldn't happen, I think a nice plan was put together to have a nice intimate family moment, but certainly some of those teachers that came out to support students was special too. So that's all I have this evening. And for future school committee meetings and subcommittee meeting dates, we are scheduled for June 22nd at 2020. That's the annual town meeting. And June 24th, a special town meeting. And the next regularly scheduled meeting will be July 22nd, 2020. And I'm just going to circle back with Courtney one final time to see if there's anyone that has called in and is waiting. And if not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Courtney, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Let me go check, okay?
Great, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for holding. No calls.
Great. Thank you for checking, Courtney, and thank you for helping us out tonight. It's certainly appreciated.
No problem.
With that, do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn tonight's meeting. Mr. Wilson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Steadman?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. That's a 4-0 vote. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.